Hello, welcome to Bookspin. It's time for another book haul video. It's been a little while since I've done one of these. I wasn't actually planning to make another of these videos for a while yet. And that's because I've not really gone out of my way to buy lots of books this year. But I've still managed to accumulate 9 new books since my last haul. And some of these are really interesting, so I think it's worth taking a look. Some of these books were very kindly sent to me or given to me by various people. So let's take a look. The first book I'd like to mention is this book, Jumpnauts by Hao Jingfang. And this book was sent to me by Head of Zeus, the publisher. It's a new release. It came out just last month. I actually reached out to Head of Zeus when I heard about this book because I wanted to read it. And they sent it to me very kindly. So this is a kind of first contact novel with philosophical themes. I have read this author before. She's a Chinese author. I really enjoyed her last novel, Vagabonds, and her short story, Folding Beijing, which I thought was excellent. So I was very curious to see what she was going to come up with next. So that's why I reached out to the publisher. Also, I really like this cover art. This beautiful Chinese dragon design with other various Chinese motifs. It's very different to the US edition. If you compare these two covers, they've got totally different vibes. And I personally, I think this UK edition is much more appealing. But yeah, I've already started reading this book and I've nearly finished it. So I will let you know my thoughts when I'm done. I may even post a review. I am enjoying it, but I'll let you know more soon. So the next book is this one, Contingency Plans for the Apocalypse and Other Possible Situations by S.P. Divya. Now, this is not an author I know much about, but I have heard some good things about her short stories. She wrote a novella, which is quite critically acclaimed. I think it's a novella called Runtime, which is included within this collection. And one thing I'm planning to do is read more short stories. It's kind of an ongoing project for me. Most of the collections that I own at the minute are classic or vintage, so that they tend to have been published a few decades ago. So I wanted to read some more modern short fiction. So that's part of the reason why this collection has some appeal to me. And in fact, I am thinking of doing a project later in the year where I just read short stories for a month, and I do some sort of short story themed videos, and I think I'm going to do that in September. So I'm going to call it Short Sci-Fi September, and I'll probably include this book as part of that sort of reading project. It's got some critical acclaim from Ken Liu, who says, "I wish more science fiction were as exciting and relevant." So I look forward to reading that one. And from the same author, her novel Meru, which was published last year. I think in order to get a good sense of a writer, I don't want to just read her short stories. I want to try reading her longer fiction as well. So this came out last year. I think it's kind of epic space opera. It's the first part of a duology called the Alloy Era. Again, this was sent to me courtesy of the publisher, which in this case is 47 North, which is an imprint of Amazon Publishing. And again, I reached out to them and they very kindly sent me this book. So thank you very much. And I plan to read this at some point this year. They've promised to send me the sequel Loca as well, which is due to come out this summer. So I will try and read and review this book at some point in the year. And then we have the one vintage book, one vintage paperback, which I picked up in this haul. And this one I got from my local Oxfam charity bookshop. This one is called The Alien Ones by Leo Brett. I picked this one up when I was browsing in the book in Oxfam, and I wanted to see if they have any nice vintage sci-fi paperbacks, and I found this, and it's in very nice condition. I know nothing about the author. It says they travelled across a wilderness of space to the harsh planet Orkel. So if you know anything about this author, or if indeed if you've read this book, please let me know in the comments. Okay, so now another book I found out in the wild in the most unlikely of places is this lovely hardback of Terminal World by Alistair Reynolds. I was very lucky to find this. You can see it's got a nice iridescent cover. I found this in Tesco's, which is my local supermarket, of all places. They have a second-hand book area where people donate their used books, and then you spend a small fee, which goes to charity, and you can pick up whatever book you want. So it's just left as a kind of stool, like a kind of self-service stool. And every time I go shopping there, I have a look to see what they've got. But usually none of it's to my taste. It's normally full of kind of like trashy romance novels and thrillers and things which don't really appeal to me. But then the other day I found this Terminal World, which is actually on my TBR. It's one Alistair Reynolds book which I haven't read and I really do want to read. So I paid just £1 for this, with this lovely hardback with beautiful cover art. It's ex-library, so it's probably been read a few times, but it's in very good condition, and you can't complain for £1. So that was a lucky find. Next up, Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Now, if you watched my last video about science fiction novellas, you may recall that this was one book that was on my TBR. It's a novella that I really want to read. But as I said back then, I don't have a copy, or I didn't have a copy at the time of filming. And then someone sent me this. A viewer sent me this, which is a total surprise for me. It just came out of the blue in my mail. And it comes with a gift note which says, "I don't own this one yet." That's quoting me. Well, now you do. Thank you for the work that you do to encourage reading. From Thomas. So, Thomas, thank you so much. That is a wonderful surprise. I really wasn't expecting anything like this. And I'm definitely going to read this now. And yeah, I really want to read more Adrian Tchaikovsky. And this novella in particular is probably top of my list of his work that I really want to read. So thank you so much to Thomas for sending me this. That was a lovely surprise. What else have we got? Okay, so this is one which I bought myself. The Man Who Folded Himself by David Gerald. This is a classic time travel novel. It's been sort of on my sort of Amazon wish list for a very long time, and I finally decided to just go ahead and buy it. I got it at quite a good price, I think. This is a second-hand copy. I don't really like the cover design, but that's not really important. I've heard that this is quite a sort of mind-bending, clever time travel story. And I do want to read more time travel fiction. I'm actually thinking of doing another book review trio at some point. A themed trio where I just read time travel novels. And this will be one of those novels. So I may well read this at some point this year. but I definitely want to read it soon. And we're down to the last two books. Okay, so I've got another short story collection here. This is Howard Waldrop's Howard Who, which is a classic short story collection. It came out in the 1980s. Howard Waldrop sadly passed away quite recently. I think he's a bit of an underrated writer, even though I've not read any of his work yet. I've heard that he was quite a master of the short story. This book it's got acclaim from George R.R. Martin, who says, "If this is your first taste of Howard, I envy you." And it includes what is probably his most famous story, his most famous work, which is called The Ugly Chickens, which is about the dodo, the extinction of the dodo, or it's a kind of what if situation if the dodo never became extinct. I think I don't really know, but I know that dodos are a part of it. So I've also heard that he's kind of quite sort of witty and zany in his style of writing. So I'm going to add this to my short story TBR as something a little bit more classic. So I may well read this in short sci-fi September as well. And finally, we've got another Howard Waldrop book, but this time it's one of the few novels which he wrote, which is Them Bones. Look at this lovely vintage hardback. Now, this book came out in 1989. It's another time travel story. Gregory Benford says, "A tense, fast-paced time travel yarn packed with gritty detail, pleasurable and fine." Very nice. So I might add this to the time travel trio as well. And this book was very kindly given to me by my friend Ian, who owns the online bookstore Durdles Books. He's donated books to me before. I do recommend you check out his website. Durdles Books, it's got a lot of classic science fiction and fantasy, a lot of collector's editions. I think it's mostly hardbacks. There are a lot of nice books in his collection, so take a look at his website. And thank you very much, Ian, for giving me this copy of an author which I am keen to explore. And that about wraps things up. Plenty of great books to read. I can't wait to get stuck into them. I'll see you again soon, and thank you for watching.